Here are some key exemption facts. I'm going to show the different tests for exemptions, but not get into too much detail on them. But I want you to have that material at a higher level. Note that non-governmental employers must comply with the FLSA and New York minimum wage laws. Public employers, this is government entities, are subject only to the FLSA, with the very limited exception of non-instructional employees in public school districts. So cafeteria workers, bus drivers, custodians in public schools are subject to New York State minimum wage and overtime laws. Any employees of towns, villages, cities, counties, etc., are not subject to the New York laws, but are, unless an exception applies, subject to the Fair Labor Standards Act minimum wage and overtime requirements. The federal and state exemptions, even when they have the same name, are not literally identical. The tests are worded differently, and occasionally that can make a difference. For the most part, an employee who is exempt from overtime under the FLSA is also at least partially exempt under New York law, but there is a wrinkle that if the employee doesn't specifically meet a New York exemption, even though they meet the FLSA exemption, they would still be entitled to receive overtime at time and a half the New York minimum wage. In other words, someone meets the federal exemption but not the New York exemption and is normally paid the equivalent of $30 an hour. If they then work over 40 hours, New York law would require not that they get paid time and a half the 30 hours, but that they get paid time and a half the New York minimum wage. That's kind of a peculiar situation that most people don't know about or don't want to have to deal with, but technically that's the way the law works. Not all salaried employees qualify for exemption. A lot of people equate salary with exempt, but the salary is usually only one component of an exemption, if it's even a component at all. Job duties are usually also relevant to whether someone is exempt. And in that case, it is critical to note that it is the job duties that the individual actually performs and not just the job title that determines exemption status.